Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hip Horse. I'm Tommy D, along with Johnnie Lowe. We're talking the Kentucky Derby, going on since 1875, the 146th Run for the Roses, the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. A mile and a quarter is the distance for three-year-old horses. This year it's all mixed up, Johnny. The Belmont is usually the last leg. It was run first. Now we have the Kentucky Derby in September. The Preakness is the last leg. No fans this year. This is like no other. So Kentucky Derby 2020, my friend. How are you?
Hi. Doing good. It's definitely going to be a lot different this year. I'm sure the weather could be different. Maybe we'll get a dry derby this year. I don't know if it's going to rain in September like it usually does in May. There's just so many questions we don't have any answers to. There's no history of a September Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about it. It gives the horses more time to prep. These three-year-olds, as you know, still trying to figure it out on the track, in the barn. The trainers are still trying to figure them out. But this is going to be one that doesn't seem to have too much, long shot capability here. Obviously, there's one horse everyone's talking about, Tiz the Law. Your thoughts on this horse, Tiz the Law?
Well, we gave Tiz the Law out for the Belmont. I think clearly he's just a better horse than those horses. Going one turn, mile and an eighth, that wasn't a fair fight. I mean, he smoked them. He came back in the Travers and absolutely dominated. I think he answered a lot of questions in the Travers. With that being said, I don't know. He might be 4 to 5. It could be 3 to 5, which is unheard of in a 16 to 20 horse field, what they're expecting. So with that being said, maybe there's a chance we find a long shot. I mean, if you trace the bloodlines for Tiz the Law, he's by Constitution's first crop, so he doesn't really have a history of Kentucky Derby runners. So you go back one generation, you hit Tappet. Tappet's 0 for 10 in the Kentucky Derby. Never had a horse finish the race on the wire better than fourth. Last year, Tacitus got moved up to third after a DQ. Before that, Pulpit. Pulpit was 0 for 6 with Derby runners. Before that, in the last 20 years, AP Indy since 2000 was 0 for 8. So you're talking an 0 for 24 streak for 3 generations worth of horses on Constitution's line going into the race, which is probably more than that. AP Indy was born in 89, so I think he had some horses in the 90s that didn't win either. The last direct line winner in that line was from Seattle Swale, and I believe in the 80s. So when you look at it that way, maybe this is the year to upset the 3 to 5 shot. Maybe we can get a few payouts,
I like where your head's at, Johnny, because, I mean, you talk to most people and most handicappers and people following the sport, and, I mean, this horse is leading with 372 points. I mean, this horse has done nothing wrong. Constitution, as we don't know much about it, has been red hot. This 3-year-old, I think, it just what it did to Uncle Chuck and the Travers just put this horse even up a little bit higher on my list, because Saratoga is a tough place to come into and win, and to beat down a top Baffert horse like Uncle Chuck, who I think has a lot of class and I think is going to have a nice little career. But Tiz the Law made it look too easy in that race, Johnny. So, but I do want to know where you're thinking some of these prices and the pedigree, because I mean we can't play 4 to 5. I mean, we got to find an angle and a way to play this. Maybe underneath we can find some prices and a little bit on the exact. I don't know, but talk to me here. Who do you like?
Yeah, so obviously Tiz the Law with his 2-minute flat, mile and a quarter, didn't take a deep breath, hand dried. I mean,
Joke.
It doesn't get better than that. But let's say something happens, bad break, gets stuck behind 20 horses. It's Kentucky Derby. With that being said, I think I'm just going to go with straight pedigree picks. Hopefully we land some prices here. I think you look at the horses that are going to get some play, they might not have the better pedigrees for this. So I'm gonna look at the first horse. I'm gonna look at is gonna be NY Traffic. NY Traffic's by Cross Traffic, who's by Unbridled Song, who's by Unbridled. The Unbridled line is excellent for the Kentucky Derby. Unbridled himself won. His son Grindstone won. You've got the son of Birdstone, who was by Grindstone. Mind That Bird, who won. You've got the Empire Maker line, which Empire Maker ran second. His progeny, Pioneer of the Nile, Bodemeister, they both ran second. Both of them sired Kentucky Derby winners, and Bodemeister with Always Dreaming Pioneer of the Nile with American Pharaoh, who is obviously a Triple Crown winner. So it's an excellent line that we're looking at going into this race. On the bottom side, he's out of Mammy Riley, who's by Graham Hall. Graham Hall's the deputy minister line. Not a lot is dropped on the fem line. Only one black tie broodmare, which is kind of weak. I want to see a couple black tie broodmares on that within a few generations. But with that being said, deputy minister line's no joke. It's good stamina, and I think this horse has a pretty good shot in this race as far as the breeding is concerned. Another horse to look at is 1,000 Words. 1,000 Words is by Pioneer of the Nile, who's 1 for 3 as a sire in the Derby. This 1,000 Words is out of Pomeroy's Pistol. Pomeroy's Pistol is a black type horse, won 574,000 plus. It's the Boundary line. The Boundary line's no stranger to the Kentucky Derby, as Boundary did sire Big Brown, who won the race in 2008. And then you have Dortmund, who was by Big Brown, who ran third in the race with American Pharaoh. Pomeroy's Pistol has 3 six-figure winning siblings, and it's a good line on bottom, decent amount of black type, and I think they paid $1 million for this horse. It definitely belongs in the race. The next horse in line, I think, is Dr. Post. Dr. Post is by Quality Road, who's 0 for 1 in the Kentucky Derby so far with Roadster, but I don't feel like that was really a fair shot. Roadster is inbred to Mr. Prospector on both the white line on top and the white line on bottom. So as far as I'm concerned, Roadster's pedigree, it doesn't scream mile and a quarter to me. So I think Dr. Post will give him another shot here. Quality Road's by Elusive Quality. Elusive Quality is the sire of Smarty Jones. Obviously, Smarty Jones won the Derby fairly easy back in his day. And Dr. Post is out of Mary Delaney. Mary Delaney's a black type, Stormcat line. The fem line has Secretariat and Seattle Slew broodmares on it. And I think that's going to be enough stamina on the bottom line if Dr. Post can improve off his last couple efforts, which he's definitely going to need to. He kind of reminds me of a little Country House last year. He wasn't really winning the big races to get into the Derby. And when they turned him on a quarter, his pedigree kind of showed through. And he ran a huge race to run second to Maximum Security. With that being said, last year there was 5 horses that fit the bill for the same type of pedigree setup as the top 3 that I just outlined. The 5 horses were Maximum Security, who won, Country House, who ran second, and Probable, who ran 5th, and then you have Game Winner, who ran 6th. So 4 out of the 5 ran in the top 6, and the only one that didn't run well was Great Magician. I think he had some issues, ended up last. 2 more horses I think that do have a really good shot pedigree-wise, but they're a little bit different build. Are going to be King Guillermo, who's by Uncle Mo. Uncle Mo is Nyquist's sire. He's 1 for 3 in the Derby. And most of King Guillermo's siblings are running in Europe. He's got a half-brother by American Pharaoh who hasn't hit the grounds yet. I think he'll probably run in the States. He's out of Slow Sand. Slow Sand is by Dixieland Band. Dixieland Band on the broodmare side has been the broodmare sire of Street Sense and Monarchos, 2 Kentucky Derby winners in the last 20 years. 2001 was Monarchos and 2007 was Street Sense. Slow Down is Slow Sand's broodmare. Slow Down dropped Funny Duck, who messed up a lot of people's pick 5s and pick 6 tickets a couple years ago in the Justify year of the Kentucky Derby. But Slow Down's also dropped 4 six-figure winners. So there's a lot of potential on the bottom side of King Guillermo's pedigree, as well as the Uncle Mo line on top, who's just been red hot. I mean, he gets winners on turf, dirt, fillies, mares, colts, horses, whatever. I think he just produces. And then Caro, the horse that ran second in the Travers, he's also by Uncle Mo. He's out of Peacetime, who's by Warfront. Peacetime's broodmare Santa Katrina won $645,000, and great grandmother perfectly dropped 3 six-figure winners. I think that his broodmare line is a tad bit weak, but at the same time, I think that it's definitely showed a little bit of potential. And this horse improves every time he runs. I think that he's going to definitely show up on Kentucky Derby Day. And we might see some prices here. King Guillermo, Caro, Dr. Post, NY Traffic, 1,000 Words. They might be on the backside of the top 4 or 5 entrants in the race as far as odds are concerned. So I think if a few of these hit the board, that superfecta might pay really well this year again.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely talked about a couple quality horses here. I mean, obviously the Kentucky Derby has only quality field of 3-year-olds. And, a couple that you mentioned there, King Guillermo, Uncle Mo loved the sire there. This one put up 110 equal base figure at Tampa Bay Derby, 2 races back. So, be able to put up that big number and 1,000 words here. I love that, this horse beat Honor AP, last race out. Very impressive. A lot of the handicappers and people are high on Honor AP. So Dr. Post too, Quality Road, you got to like that as the sire. And Todd Pletcher, pretty hot at Saratoga right now. He's kind of, he has really good numbers, so he's coming into the race with some good momentum. So you got to like that. And Caro, we talked about that in our last video, right there in second place. I agree with you. I like this one too. So I love what you got for me, Johnny. Your pedigree knowledge is great and always gives a great information and a different perspective to me as a handicapper too. Just a couple, just to touch on real quick, Derby points. We did leave off a couple. Number 2, authentic 200 points here. This one, won the Haskell last race out over New York traffic and Dr. Post. But he did run behind Honor AP in the Santa Anita Derby here. Bob Baffert, as we know, has won the Kentucky Derby 5 times, so you never totally want to discount a Baffert horse. Art Collector, 150 points coming in, won the Ellis Derby impressively. The horse has had some weaker competition, but really hasn't done anything wrong. I know the trainer's very high on this one, and, to beat Swiss Skydiver, the way he did, give a little bit higher up on the level there. Don't love it, but I think it has an outside shot. And then Honor AP, just the connections here is what I'm looking at. They did it back in 2005 with Giacomo, and that's John Sheriffs and Mike Smith. Mike Smith will be making the trip to Kentucky, so you got to like to see that for this Dark Bay Ridgeling, the Son to Honor code. Runner up to 1,000 words last time. That's one you like. So it's an interesting, just a couple in the mix there, but we pretty much went through the top 10 in the Derby points. The only one we didn't mention was number 9, Max Player. Do you have any thoughts on this one? This was switched from the Linda Rice barn to the Steve Asmussen barn.
Yeah, I think if he wins the Kentucky Derby, then he'll probably beat me. I think I'm probably going to play against that horse. With that being said, I do have a wild card horse here.
Talk to us.
Now this horse I don't think he's ever ran on dirt before. I think he's just running to PETA out in Canada. But if somehow he does backdoor into the Derby, I think he's a horse to watch out for. Sherrill Spite. Sherrill Spite is by Spitestown, which is the Gone West line. That's the same line as the Dr. Post. He's out of Perfectly Sherrill, who won $1.3 million. Perfectly Sherrill is by Perfect Soul, which is the Sadler's Wells line, which is a very, very good stamina line. Matter of fact, most of the horses in Europe are of the Sadler Wells line. The Grandmother Lady Sherrill also dropped Shakespeare, who won $1.3 million and had dropped 6 six-figure winners, earned almost $1 million in her career as well. So the bottom half of the pedigree for Sherrill Spite is really incredible. And with Charlestown out, I think this is the best Spitestown option we're going to get. I don't know if the horse is going to get in the race, doesn't have any points, but there's been a lot of defections. This could be a year that you might not have to actually earn points to get into the race. So if this horse does get into the race, it might have a little bit of an impact. I guess we'll have to see how the surface change and the distance and the step up in class affect the horse. But with that being said, I do like this horse's pedigree a little bit.
Yeah, and to the point you just made, you think the main reason is because a lot of trainers or owners don't want to come and face Tiz the Law and they don't think they have a chance? Or do you just think what would be the reasoning behind that, not having the points coming in?
Well, I think at this point in the season, a lot of horses have been off the Derby trail. You know, we've had, usually when it's in May, the horses run a couple races and then they've got points, they go. You know, we're talking September now. It's a hot summer. Things happen. Obviously, Nadal, Charlatan. There was that horse that's a half to Mr. Monomoy. I mean, you just kind of go down the list, and horses are defecting left and right. So I think that's probably the biggest reason. Whether you think you can beat Tiz the Law or not, if you have a sound horse, and you've got Derby points, you run them in the Derby, you know, and that's why you buy the horse. That's why you get in the game, to have your silks trotting around the track in the Kentucky Derby. So I think for the most part, they're not looking for the allowance race that their horse fits in. They're looking to run in the Derby. But being so late in the season, I think a lot of these horses they've had some summer campaigns. They might be a little bit tired, might be a little sore. You know, this might not be the race for them at 1.25 miles.
Yeah, great point. You know, being later in the season, like we talked about earlier, I think it definitely, you know, taxes some of the horses a little bit more. So good point on that. But, you know, Kentucky Derby 2020, we're looking at this before any of the odds, who's actually in the race, the post positions. So we will put out another video of the week of the Derby, but we wanted to get something out for you to chew on, you know, with Johnnie, our pedigree analysis, and I'm Tommy D. Anything else you want to throw in before we get out of here, Johnnie?
Hopefully they shape the field up. Hopefully these horses we talked about get in, and it should be a good one this year. I'm going to be really interested to see how the weather is. I think it's been hot back there in Kentucky, and usually in May it's not overwhelmingly hot. So I guess there's a lot of factors we're going to have to play into as the days get closer and things change, and just really this year is going to be uncharted territory. And hopefully when the time comes, you know, we can pick the winner and get some of these hip horse fans some decent prices out there.
Well, let me just ask you one more question. I don't know if I'm kind of throwing it out there last minute. Say it was to rain. Is there any like these pedigrees that really stand out to you, that one or two that you're like, this one and this one, if it rains, I got to play them?
Well, you know, the interesting thing about the rain is the only time Tiz the Law ever lost was in the rain. So I think as far as the biggest impact it could have on the race is if you've got the 3 to 5 shot that doesn't like the mud. I think that's the biggest pedigree play you can go with, because if you're going to play against that, you're probably going to be throwing some long shots in. I think Thousand Words should probably like the rain a little bit. I think the Uncle Mo's should like the rain a little bit. And then that could even open it up to some other horses with some different types of pedigrees. But I think that the biggest deal with the rain would be Tiz the Law did lose in the rain. So
yeah, great point. Some horses run well in the rain, in the mud, and some don't. So I mean, we'll find out. 2020, it's been backwards, and this year's Kentucky Derby, as you said, Tiz the Law is going to go in as probably the biggest favorite we've seen in a long, long time. All right, Johnnie, always a pleasure, buddy. Thanks for joining us, everybody on the Hip Horse. Stay tuned for our Kentucky Derby video when we get the post positions, and hit that like and subscribe. Like I said, we want to put out more content for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.